Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this final showcase session of the GEO Symposium. During the next hour, we will have 4 different pitches that will last about 14 minutes, and we will have a set of questions if times allow. And the idea is that the presenter give you an insight on what they are doing, and that you can continue the discussion at the coffee break if needed. So we will start as soon as the tech is ready. Okay. So we are ready to go. So the first presentation will be done by Martin Clark from the GEO Secretariat. I will present him in details because you have already heard about his work yesterday during the opening session. So Martin, the floor is yours.
Merci. Bonjour à tous. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all energized and ready to go. We actually have a slight change to our program today in that I'll be co-presenting 3 examples of some of the pilots that we're doing under the Global Heat Resilience Service. I talked a lot about that yesterday, so I won't kind of labor the point about this idea. We're trying to produce information intelligence on extreme heat for cities, urban local governments, and folks working on climate adaptation in cities. So just a broad overview. It is a multi-partnership initiative. As I said, we've been going about 18 months, 2 years, and some of the partnerships are shown on this map. This is where we have active pilots at the moment. What we'll do today is talk to you a little bit about the prototyping we're doing with C40 cities and IBM in Brazil and India. Then we'll switch to the other side of the world and look at the prototyping we're doing with Heine Academy of Engineering, Alibaba Cloud in the cities of Shanghai and Hangzhou. And then I'm really pleased to present my colleague here, Max from Helios CubeSat, who will talk a little bit about a really exciting satellite launch that they have planned for next year. So we will try and stick to time. I'm sure I'll be reminded if we run over. And actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'll show you a video now, so you can all relax into that. And roll the tape, please, Sabrina. This is the IBM C40 prototype.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to a new tool being developed through the IBM Impact Accelerator and C40 Cities in collaboration with GEO and GCOM, the Heat Insights tool. The Heat Insights tool is an interactive web-based platform hosted on IBM Cloud. Powered by artificial intelligence, it projects urban heat risk and suggests adaptive insights based on local climate zones for cities of all sizes and technical capacities. The goal is to protect communities, assets, and infrastructure, and to support community resilience through effective heat and climate adaptation strategies. Answering key questions such as, which cities should prioritize investment? Which neighborhoods are most at risk? What interventions should be prioritized to achieve the greatest impact on heat mitigation? The platform presents this information visually on a map, offering layered views of priority neighborhoods, air temperature, land surface temperature, local climate zones, and population counts. Air temperature, measured 2 meters above ground, reflects the thermal conditions people actually experience. It's more relevant for assessing heat stress and comfort. The air temperature predictions provided in the tool leverage TerraMind, a foundation model developed by IBM Research and the European Space Agency, to predict this climate variable into the future. Population counts. To support data-driven decision-making, the platform consolidates demographic data from WorldPop, including population distribution and age and sex structure. Priority neighborhood. To enhance urban climate resilience and provide technical solutions for city governments at both city and neighborhood levels. The platform defines the priority neighborhood level based on total population, vulnerable population, and air temperature, helping identify where actions and interventions should be prioritized based on these insights. The calculation identifies the number of heat days of air temperature in the analyzed year based on a defined threshold, and then multiplies it by the total population, giving additional weight to more vulnerable communities. To recommend these interventions, the platform considers each neighborhood's local climate zones and predominant build types, ensuring that the suggested solutions are aligned with the area's urban characteristics. In addition, land surface temperature is incorporated to complement the analysis, enabling a deeper understanding of heat patterns across the city. Local climate zones. To better understand urban environments, the platform classifies urban and natural areas based on built types and land cover, helping identify different urban forms and development patterns. Land surface temperature refers to heat radiated from the Earth's surface. Measuring it helps understand how urban areas absorb and release heat, informing sustainable planning. The LST predictions provided in the tool leverage IBM Research's Granite Geospatial Land Surface Temperature Foundation Model with Prithvi and NASA, which has been further fine-tuned to enhance accuracy for the target cities. All data presented on the platform are accessible through charts and tables and can be exported as reports. The report is downloaded as a spreadsheet, organizing all the information displayed on the map into separate sheets. It includes dedicated sheets for city overview, population, priority neighborhoods, air temperature, land surface temperature, and insights. The platform includes an integrated assistant designed to simplify how data is presented to users. With simple questions and prompts, they can easily access city or neighborhood level information and even generate automated communications, such as emails to mayors or messages to local communities. The Heat Insights tool is currently in the development phase and will eventually be available to the public at no cost. In the MVP's first phase, it will provide data for Salvador, Cáceres, and Bengaluru. In the second phase for Rio de Janeiro, Coxim, and Hubli Darvad. In the third phase for Belo Horizonte, Teresina, Sao Paulo, and Freetown. City governments will gain the insights they need to implement measures that protect their communities, improve quality of life, and ultimately save lives. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching indeed. Yeah, apologies for the slightly cringeworthy AI voiceover there, but because we're working in two countries with different languages, we're having to produce the video in English and Portuguese. But I suppose the point I'm trying to make with the video is we've gone quite far in developing a prototype, and that is kind of serving two purposes. One is that the ultimate goal is to provide cities with the information they need, but actually the process of designing it and developing it has been done very much in lockstep with the cities that you saw mentioned on the last slide. This month we're actually going to launch with the first 3 cities, and that basically means us sitting with the people that would be using it, getting some live feedback on whether the tool is actually producing information that is useful to them in a format that works for them. So the sort of features and functionality in the tool, and also give them a chance to reflect on what the risk assessment is actually showing them, and does it align with their own lived experience and perception of heat risk in their own cities. So at the same time, we have a similar concept being developed, prototyped in 2 Chinese cities, Shanghai and Hangzhou. Now, the context in which heat decisions are being made in these cities is very different to the one that we find in Brazil and India. These are incredibly data-enabled cities already. Dr. Wang Jian was talking a little bit about this platform yesterday, and Alibaba Cloud and others have supported many cities across China to kind of implement smart city type approaches. And so they're very used to working with data to inform decision making. So although the concept and nature of the platform is very similar, the context in which it's being implemented is very different. Next slide, please. So we started talking there about a number of use cases that we would need to respond to. And I think I said it a few times yesterday, but heat is being managed by different departments across these cities for different reasons. And so some of the scenarios that we're looking at providing data for are on this slide. Next slide, please. But the basic concept is similar to the IBM C40 tool in that we're sort of adapting the IPCC risk framework to generate heat risk information at reasonably high resolution. This is a different model they're using here to model air temperature at 10-meter resolution. I won't go into detail about how that's happening, but it has a number of inputs, including multispectral imagery, building height information to describe the urban environment. Next slide, please. There's a little bit here on but it's effectively using artificial intelligence to predict air temperature, and it's been trained on a number of cities in China. And now we are at the stage similar to the C40 tool where we want to go and take it to Hangzhou and Shanghai stakeholders and see how they react to the data that they're seeing. Next slide, please. And just as I wrap up, there's the platform is quite different. As I say, it's been designed with a slightly different user base in mind, has very similar information in it. And we're now in the process, as I say, of rolling this out to the cities and then iterating on the kind of features and functionality they see, whilst learning a little bit about how they would use some of this information in a decision-making context. Hopefully we're doing all right for time. So that was 2 examples very quickly, and now I'll pass over to Max, who's the Chief Science Officer for Helios CubeSat, and he'll explain a little bit about some work that they'll be doing next year that we want to incorporate into the Heat Resilience Service umbrella. You turn that one on, Max.
So, part of Helios, which is a London-based startup, and so we're going to launch a 6U CubeSat to monitor urban heat islands and extreme heat in 20 cities across the Earth. It has 2 payloads, so a multispectral camera and a thermal imaging camera, and it's a sun-synchronous orbit of 500 kilometers. And this allows us to have like a 1 to 2 day repeat time and very high resolution. And it affects 380 million people. And some of the stuff that the hyperspectral camera will be measuring, stuff like vegetation, water cover, and soil moisture. Next slide, please. So what we found was that there wasn't enough information getting to the end users, and that developing countries still didn't have access to that much data. We spoke to the Greater London Authority and they had almost a complete data set, but developing countries don't have the same access to data, so we want to bridge that gap and bring affordable data to developing countries. And we also want to get data that's solution-based, not just the problem. So we're going to track solutions, predict how well they'll do, and allow solutions to be compared. And it's very high resolution. So compared to other data, we should be giving kind of more accurate predictions to local governments and authorities. Next slide, please. So yeah, that's just more of it. It's going to be solution based, and it's going to be tracking multiple things with especially with that hyperspectral camera. Next slide, please. So we're going to have multiple layers. Now we're going to what the cameras measure. That's going to be layer 0, the first layer. That's just the raw data. But our main thing is we're going to process that. And we've split it into A's and B's. A is the kind of life-saving data. One of our main goals is we want to make life-saving, stuff that affects people's health free and open to everyone. And kind of branch B is stuff for corporations. So it will be asset risk management and looking at financial impact on firms. So layer 1 will be life risk and asset risk. So we'll combine this with other maps, such as like their economic welfare or their poverty in those areas to reduce risks. Then we have solutions in layer 2 and a solution impact, the impact of those solutions. And we might introduce a fourth layer, which would be the financial impact of those layers. And next slide, please. So this is a little demo of our thermal measurements. So our measurements will have a resolution of 85 by 85 meters, but using the hyperspectral camera, we can sharpen it to 16 by 16 meters, providing a way greater resolution than other systems. Next slide, please. So the great successes in this is we want to, it kind of focuses on solutions, which we think is really important for local authorities. And keeps the life-saving data free, but our shortcomings are we're struggling with funding, and we need to find a sustainable funding model from firms to let us save lives. So that's why we have this partial open access. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We're here to make lots of connections and partnerships, especially with developing countries. So you can talk to us maybe after this meeting or later today. These are some of our LinkedIns and how to contact us. But we would really love to make partnerships and speak to people in these authorities so that we can actually get our product to the end users. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're at time. I just wanted to say thanks. You can see the experiments are continuing, and generally what we're trying to do whilst conducting the experiments is assess the feasibility of how these things scale. The ambition of GHRS is global. You've seen a few examples of very local pilots, but yeah, watch this space for some of the results on scalability and transferability. Cheers.
Thank you. And please come during the coffee break to ask your question to Martin and Max. Now I'd like to invite the next presenter, Monica Miguel Lago. She's a senior project manager at ERSC, European Association of Remote Sensing Companies, a GEO participating organization, and she will talk about the Valadora project. So Monica, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, here I think within this presentation, I will take a different perspective. I will go through the methodological approach. We all, this is the second day of the GEO Symposium, and we all agreed that it's interesting to understand the different workflows. I mean, we have data, we have impact, but what is in the middle? So I will not show impacting images as Martin has been showing. So unfortunately, will be more a little bit on the detail. So, well, you passed the slides. So the next slide, sorry. In this discussion will be about climate action, but also thinking more in climate adaptation. Maybe through the last years, we see a different discourse between the climate mitigation, but now it's a little bit more in adaptation. So this activity has been done into that context. ERSC is as I mentioned, is an association which is gathering the Earth observation industry. We have data providers, we have EO value providers, but also we have cloud providers or infrastructure providers. So we cover somehow the value chains. And for that, we understand also what is the data provision side, but also which is the delivery really into the community. So next slide, sorry. This is the context of how ERSC is involved in a project. We're trying to understand the stakeholders' needs, the challenges they have. And in this occasion, was very interesting for us to talk with the municipalities. And it's very nice that Martin was presenting before the case, because I would like to touch upon the localization. Localization is very, very important when you talk about climate adaptation, because it's really taking the different elements about exposure, the sensitivity, the cultural heritage and how they have within the behavior of the population. It is different to talk from a disaster that is impacting with droughts in a certain area, but if you have people that was working on the land or working in a coastal is different cultural perception. So we need to tackle all this part. So adaptations and how we'll move into this human perception, the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the economies, and the policies. And policies is something that is very important to also touch when you talk about the value chains. Valorada somehow was looking into what is already the data that the municipalities has, because maybe they have already the data. It's just a way to find the data, but also to make it accessible, and also for the different communities. You have a lot of cases that in the local authorities, they don't talk between each other because they are coming from different political parties, but they have the data. So sometimes it's really about how to discover all this data. So the next slide, sorry. We will move for a different methodological approach. So we have been testing in these areas that you saw before, different risks, looking in urban heat, droughts, floods, erosion. So all these have different dimensions. But here, that is what we wanted, to have different geolocation areas and different risks. So with that, we try to test this methodological approach, which is really looking into adapt the context. In this graphic, you see that we go first to make a question. I mean, how the population in this municipality or region is perceiving the risk, which is the most important risk. So for that, we have been analyzing this climate impact change. I mean, which is the risk that matters most to you? With that risk, we identify which will be the indicator that is giving the information to monitor that risk. So we go into the measure of this risk. Then once we have this risk and the indicator, we try to understand which are the data sets that are able to give us the information to support that risk. In this case, it could be EO data or maybe satellite data, in situ data, other type of climate data, census data. So we compile that information. Then we try to understand which are the barriers. In many cases, we discover, if you're talking with people in Montpellier or Bradford in Bulgaria, they have different approaches, but maybe the problem is similar, which in this case is maybe data silos, the impermeability gaps, etc. With that, we made a kind of what we call a valorization framework. And with that, we try to understand which is the value of the data. We somehow prioritize data sets. It's a kind of weighting, which is most important from the different regions or cities. And then we organize this information in a catalog, a structured catalog with the first principles that gives more accessibility, obviously funding, and also interoperability and replicability information. That information is built into the design support systems through visualizations. And now we came a little bit more in the nice part to see how the images are getting together. And then to evaluate and learning with the community. If we go for the next slide. Or what I said before is about this methodology change. So you have the climate impact change at the beginning, and then you have the information about the evaluation with the community and also the impacting. The image in the bottom is nice to see because you see people there active talking, and this is the co-design approach that we mentioned from the beginning. But the co-design is really with the final users, is with the local authority that is putting the maps. And is discussing with the mayor of the city, okay, that will be the risk that you have for the elderly people that is living into your city. So with these people is the one that we have been discussing and understanding the requirements. If you go to the next slide, you will see how we build this capacity in this co-design approach. So we define this risk together with them. We try to understand this climate impact change through the methodology that I expressed before. And with that, we have this institutional commitment. It's always difficult to work in different regions, also different realities, to have this institutional commitment, because unfortunately in the local authorities, they have 4 years of commitment because the election will come. But this is why it's important to work with methodologies, because the methodology, if it's accepted, they will remain. If it's about a local, just a case, maybe with the next election, they will not take it on board. So that was one of the lessons learned that we have in this project and this activity. Then we have this conversion And this was important because there were definition of the different roles. Who is doing what? Who is the intermediate that is providing the data and make it easy readable for the community? So we have these translation steps. In the next phase, we have this capacity in place. Obviously, there's some of capacity building behind that. I will say authorities, maybe they are not used to this type of data. They don't need to know everything, but they need to have certain skills to support that. So this is why we put some capacity development in place. And then we have this deliver, that is the connection a little bit with the decision strategies. As you see this angle, and these are the important topics that I feel it is we need to take into account: the regional risk, the data integration, the stakeholders engagement, but also the policy dimension. In the next slide, you will. Yeah, this one. So you see in the bottom there are there's 6 slides to left here. Now we look into the climate impact change. So we look how to contextualize this risk. We mentioned before. We have this collaboration for the collection of the data, and this is the cataloging part. It was very interesting to see how different people from the same municipality, different parties, political parties, they work together to better categorize and fill up the data they have. So we put that information in the data catalogs, and then we were able to see how they invade this interoperability. So somehow was about something that we learned there was the improvement in this data management. They get the practice, and I think it was very successful in I think it was about eight municipalities that we worked together, and they were able to somehow manipulate their own data sets. So there is something that they were having there, but I think the cataloging was a very interesting steps for this municipality. In the next slide, you will see about the data. So how this data was categorized. And there is, again, it's about to understanding these assessment metrics. It's about usability of the data, the quality of the data, the strategic value for the own municipality or region of the data. So the own authorities, they make this exercise and indicate with this cataloging. And this cataloging is something that is remaining with that cities. So in the next slide, you will see how we converted that data into indicators. This is a typical image that probably you see these days. It's about how we transfer this raw data through these data ingestion toolbooks for extracting this area of interest. So they were taking the information, putting into the spatial temporal normalizing of the data. So they compile this format. And then how that will be identify for the local administration. Normally, they are working in local administrative units, which are very statistics. And here is another component that is taken into account because this community is normally working. A geospatial community is working in the stack data, spatial temporal access catalogs, while the statistical communities is talking about statistics data, metadata exchange. So as you see, there are different languages there. And the commonality is that you need to approach with them in a matrix that, okay, we're talking a geospatial component, but we need to transfer in the statistics. So we made the transition. In the next slide, you see one example about the same regions, but two different there was you can see here how the path was for the visualization, the data ingestion, the local agronomic data or the local demographic data with in situ data or the climate data. So everything is processed in the same platform. And the interesting part is that many risk indicators were processing with the same platform to give some indicators for decision. So the example here is not really to show what the tool was preventing. It's really to show the methodology that is important. In the next slide, we go to the decisions. And here it's a kind of sum up about this exercise with them. And it was interesting because they give us these discussion topics. It's about, they validate a lot the concrete local problems about what is matter for the region. They validate also that they don't need to know about the complexity of how to transfer this data, but obviously they need platforms for visualization, but they need to know where this data is coming from. They're really aware about that. This should be linked to decisions, and the policy dimension is very important. In the co-design is that we build trust, and this is something that they appreciated. And the really part here is that they wanted to connect with the different dimensions of the policy. They have national policies, regional policies, and local policies. So they needed to know that each data sets or these indicators are linked to this policy. And the next slide is we find the discussions about the policy. So we made a kind of sum up here about what we find out with this exercise of methodology. And no surprising, is about harmonization came into the discussions, the data accessibility, the co-design, the target risk visualization solutions, but it's very important to discuss about the uncertainty, and not only about the uncertainty of the satellite-derived data, but the whole data chain, is the model, is the in situ data, the uncertainty, all of those, is they are summing up or not, is aggregated as uncertainty. Then it's about the inclusion with the local values, and this is again very important for them, and we took it into account. The human perspectives or the capacity buildings were also something that they were thinking to continue, and this I think it was a nice exercise to accompany all along the way, and knowing that they are keeping the methodology, maybe not the project, but the methodology is there for the next term, political term, to take it over. And I think with that, I think it's fine. Is the last, I think it's the last slide, which is, I think, a summary of this. What we saw from then is about making data easier to use, not something creative here, but they act with this data. They already act, and they have, they appreciate a lot of this clear cataloging, the indicators, know where they're coming in the workflow, and also thinking that they could really take they take the ownership to do this long-term support. And with that, I think they are my sum up on the slide, with the slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can take one question from the audience. If there is no, I have one maybe. You mentioned how to manage uncertainties in data, in model. How do you manage the fact that we can also use different scenario with regard to long-term climate projection? We can rely on different IPCC assumption. How do you manage the different hypotheses we can use in terms of long-term scenarios?
Yeah. Well, I feel that the uncertainty topic is something that is coming not only in the climate direction, but maybe yes, even in the carbon farming direction. There is the topic of uncertainty of the data, but we identified that is really what I said, commented before. It's not about one uncertainty; it's the different uncertainties and how you need to take into account. Probably it's different to say that in this room we have 100 people, and its uncertainty is about maybe I'm 5% certain or not. So you have the 95 or 105. So uncertainty for the different dimensions, I feel that they are different. So maybe I will not say that if I take a very low uncertainty, is that I am more credible than if I take a lower uncertainty. So the matter of the, maybe is to explain what is behind the uncertainty, explain the uncertainty. And this is what we appreciate the municipalities, not giving, okay, I have 80% of uncertainty or 2% of uncertainty. It's really the dimension that they have and how to just explain. And we know that this is something that is appreciated for municipalities, for the local authorities, coming from the discussions with the Committee of Regions, for example. It is a scary term somehow, but if you explain with that, even if the IPCC level, explain where the uncertainty is coming from, I think it's appreciated because it's not only one factor. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to invite the next speaker to the stage. Is Nicolas Fabre from Absolute Sensing, and he will talk about methane observation and national statistics. So Nicolas, please.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Alexis, for the introduction. So I'm Nicolas Fabre, General Manager at Sensing Atmospheric Intelligence, and I will present you what we are doing in this company. So please, next slide. Okay, so sensing has been created in the end of 2021. Basically, the purpose of this company is to deliver accurate greenhouse gases data in order to help understand at a facility scale who emits methane and other greenhouse gases. So from 2021, the creation of the company and to the first launch of our Gen 1 demonstrator, it has only been 3 years for getting from the creation to there. The demonstrator, the purpose is to show how we are able to deliver CH4 accurate data at facility scales. And the first contract we have for this data is a Copernicus contributing mission. We have been selected as a category 1 company. So basically, we are making pilots with ESA and European Commission in order to assess the quality of our data, to showcase how we will be able to deliver to Copernicus services called CAMS, our data, in order to put in place the regulations Europe will do in the next few years. And the plan is not to keep only the Gen 1 demonstrator, of course, but to go to 1 satellite to constellation to improve the performance of our payloads, to allow to monitor other gases. We will be able with the Gen 2 to monitor as well NO2 and NH3. So, and the start of the Gen 2 constellation launch will be end of 2027. Next slide, please. In terms of products, we have 2 main products for our clients and our institutional data buyers. We have one, what is a concentration map. So basically, it will be a 10 by 10 kilometer style, and it will display the average column methane detected by our sensor at a facility scale. The Gen 1 GSD at this stage is 50 meters, and we plan to have an improved GSD for the Gen 2 at 30 meters. So we will be indeed able to say the emission that we have seen come from this facility. So you have to handle this case, you have to improve what you are doing on this industry. And in terms of emissions, so from the concentration map, we implemented our own AA model based on the IME model, so integrated mass enhancement. So it's a model that uses the concentration maps, the model of winds, and allow us to say the submission come from these points and the emission rate is between this and this rate. So of course, as part of the demonstrator, Gen 1 is able to assess emission at emission rate about 150 kilo per hour. And we plan to have the Gen 2 that will be able to go below 50 kilos, so really detects a small emission and help industrial oil and gas landfills to improve their facilities, and of course institutionals to have reliable data to see if it's relevant in terms of reporting. In terms of services, now you have the data, but we want to put in place some services to our customers. So the first and our main services is what we call continuous monitoring. So basically you have several bases. At this stage, as we have only 1 satellite, but it's at least 1 satellite, we have opened the monthly monitoring services. So you are able to select a POI on our digital platform and say, I want to monitor these facilities at a monthly revisit time. And so you will be able to get the product concentration map and the emission rates linked to these facilities each month. We have of course, access to the archives. So our clients will be able to download what we have monitored before. And we have a retention period between what has been acquired from the client and what is available in the archive. And if it's a kind of pilot or a kind of test, we have as well a service for tasking and getting the concentration and emission products. So these are our 2 main products. we will have the same products with other greenhouse gases with Gen 2, and the services will be improved, of course, in terms of revisit, in terms of quality, and we will as well add crisis management. With the constellation, we will be able to have, in terms of disaster, a revisit less than 1 day. Next slide, please. So from the beginning of the adventure, so the launch of our first satellites, and to today, we have made several assessments in terms of quality. So on the 130 acquisition we have made in 2025. So meanwhile, we were doing the reception of the satellite, the LIOP, what we call the LIOP, the IoT of our payload, and the validation of our processing chain. So we made this number of acquisition, and we assess a median standard deviation of roughly 100 ppb. So let's say 6% regarding the average column on CH4. What we see is we use the paper to assess our detection threshold, and what we have seen is that more or less the detection threshold is linked to the ground sampling distance. So of course, the most lower sampling distance you have, the more lower detection threshold you are able to deliver, and it's linked as well to the precision, to the accuracy you have on your concentration products. So if your concentration product is good, you will be able to have reliable emission rates. Otherwise, if you have more than 20 or 40% of uncertainty on your concentration maps, it doesn't make sense to go to emissions. Next slide, please. We have as well works on data available from institutional program from Sentinel-5P. So we are not talking about the same pixel size. Sentinel-5P is more or less 4 kilometers to 7 kilometers in terms of GSD. But for us, it allows us to see if we are doing the mean value on an area, if we are relevant to Sentinel-5P. And we have used as well Ticon, that are equipment on ground, and you have a concentration of different gases from this equipment available in order to assess the quality of the product. What we have seen is that our payload and our processing chain at this stage get a slightly higher XH4 value. But what is interesting is to see that we have the same offset regarding what Sentinel-5P shows and what we are monitoring. And it's the same with Ticon. So as we are doing not absolute methane concentration estimation, but relative, so saying in this area regarding the background, you have this above in terms of CH4, it means that the delta we have, the offset, is good enough in order to do to start these products. Next slide, please. We have as well works on what is required is to check the continuity in terms of quality of products during the time. So we choose several areas where you have continuous methane emissions. I know it's sad, but it's a real sad reality. And so we checked if regarding the processing chain, the evolution of the payload, we have the same kind of plume, the same kind of quantification from time to time. Next slide, please. And nevertheless, what we have, we made a contract with one major oil and gas company in order to do a control releases. So it was the start of a partnership with this company. So we agreed to do several control releases from, let's say, what the market is able to assess. So from 1 kilo to 500 kilo per hour in terms of natural detection at this stage. So it has been done from summer 2025, then we improve our processing chain, and then we made another one at 500 kilo. So you have the wind speed condition, and you have below what we have, what sensing has estimated in terms of emission rates. So we are really, really close to what has been released by the oil and gas company. So big success on these two, but we knew what are the emissions before the satellite goes there. The next one, it was not the same exercise. It was a blind test, so we knew the installation, but we didn't know what will be the emissions. So the company chose to do 244 kilogram per hour emissions. We have no more wind, which is good for the detection. And our estimation we made was 250 kilos. So our industrial was quite proud of what we made during this exercise. Next slide, please. In parallel, we are working, we have made a publication. We have laboratories in partnership during the construction of Gen 1 and the construction of Gen 2. And we have a publication that will explain what is the concept and the design of our payload, that will allow researcher, institutional, and companies to understand what we are delivering in terms of concept of payload. We will explain as well what is the radiative transfer, what is our model of estimation of the concentration we are using in order to quantify the CH4 column. And we will showcase all the steps we have been through in terms of validation, so what I presented in 5 minutes so far, for having a quality validation of our data. So it's under review. It has been accepted. It will be normally published on the AMT soonly, hopefully. Next slide, please. So at this stage, what we have in place, we have a digital platform that is able to task our satellites. We have put in place, regarding a partnership we have with a company called Keros, and a list of CAMS hotspot points, continuous monitoring of 262 sites. So we are planning acquisition on this site. So we are building our archive in order to be able to start our services as soon as we will have the final stamp from the ATM, MPC, and ESA. Of course, with the one satellite, we have a 1 month revisit, and we have over 100 plumes detected so far. So at the first time, the first plume we detected, it was quite amazing in the company. So it was an event. Then you have the second one, and you have the third one. And when you are at 10, it's what? There's so much plume in there. So there's a lot of job to do in terms of methane emissions. And I guess it's a quick win that can be done easily regarding the industry in order to have lower emissions. I know it's not a trend on US side, but I know that Europe is working hard in order to have a better lower emission in terms of CH4. Next slide, please. So the next slide is only a showcase on how our clients can use the product we are putting in place. So of course, with the monthly revisit, you will have the concentration and the emission rates available in order to see how reliable and sustainable is your installation. So you are able as well to do inventory and to see on a long period how your installation is improving. And you will be able as well to do some machine learning check with our other assets we are monitoring in order to see if at the same latitude, in the same condition, does my facilities is good enough? Does it make some improvements in order to be in the range, or do I am on the wrong side of the emission rates? And that's it. Okay.
Thank you, Nicolas. So please come ask your question during the break if you have any. Now I'd like to invite the last speaker for this morning session, Yara Villanueva. She leads the Center for Sustainability and Resilience at SP, European Space Policy Institute, and she will talk about embedding Earth observation into policy cycles. So, Yara, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. I hope everyone can hear me in this room, and if not, I'll just probably try to project my voice. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yara, and today I'd like to present a little bit in a very different perspective, basically trying to solve a problem that we're all trying to solve in this room, but in a policymaking angle. And so, and very specifically, I'd like also to present the one of the initiatives that we have within the center, which is the Policy and Practice Hub, but also just a very quick introduction. For those who don't know about us, we are from a European Space Policy Institute. It's an independent nonprofit think tank based in Vienna, and we actually work across a full range of space policy questions, from space exploration to industrial strategy to security and defense, but also about climate resilience. And all of those work that we have, we actually, at the end of the day, it all boils down to like a one question, which is how does space really serve the world beyond the space sector? And that's exactly what the center would like to solve, which is the Center for Sustainability and Resilience. It's actually very new. It was just established last year. We are being supported by the Austrian government under the space strategy, and we mostly focus on non-space decision makers. Basically, these are communities who don't really speak our language in space. These are communities who don't really follow our roadmap, and these are also communities who don't go to events like this. And one of the core questions in the center that we wanted to solve is also if this space technology is actually mature and the policy obligations is clear, why is there evidence not really arriving where it should be? And that's what we wanted to find out. And next, please. So what we did is actually we tried to analyze all the national policies in specific sectors in 26 European countries. And this is the Austria's National Energy Plan. There are 449 pages all in all, but there is actually zero mention of Earth observation, Copernicus, satellite data of any kind, remote sensing. There is nothing. And this is supposed to be a document that is supposed to guide a country's energy future plan from 2030 and beyond. Next, please. And actually, we this is not really an outlier. We try to map different policy sectors, for example, energy, peace and security, digital transition, climate action, agriculture and food. As you can see, agriculture and food is the highest domain by which the Earth observation is actually being integrated, but energy is the is the lowest. So zooming into the energy sector, within Europe, there are actually 12 countries with zero mentions in their national energy and climate plans. So you can see the priorities of the policymakers. Austria is one. Switzerland is actually has a zero mentions. And you can see here the energy sits at the bottom with 2% of all the mapped EU applications. Here, it's not just because Earth observation is not relevant. We all know that Earth observation can actually address energy problems. In fact, the European Commission, they actually created an initiative wherein they mapped the policy obligations to the technical capabilities, specifically the Copernicus, and we know that there are actually directives that we can solve by Earth observation. Next, please. So we all also know in this room, based also from the other presentations, space technology and policymaking, there are different worlds. In the space and geospatial technology, we talk about data sets, we talk about applications, and in the policy and decision making, we talk about obligations, we talk about budgets, we talk about deadlines. And one thing that we wanted to address within the CSR or the center is actually creating this bridge between these two worlds, which is the policy in practice hub. So we chose Austria as one of our pilots simply because it also sits in that zero mentioned countries, and also because the center has a working relationship with a federal ministry. But also before designing, we ask 3 questions. First, does the gap exist? And we did a lot of policy analysis of all their adaptation plans, all their energy plans, and we confirmed that there is. The second, is this a technical problem? And so we checked the KCEO master database, the one that I've discussed a while ago, and they actually mapped 3 EU obligations for Austria, which means that yes, there is actually a capability that isn't there. And is it a capability problem within Austria? And actually, it isn't, because Austria has a very thriving Earth observation ecosystem. There are a lot of technology platforms and tools available. It's just not really reaching the policymakers. And from here, we can say that the gap is actually in the governance and process, and that's what we are trying to solve. So the hub works across the 3 obligations. Again, we don't really start with what the capability of the Earth observation technology is. We always start with a policy problem because that is where the policymakers can actually relate to. And from here, we conduct a very intensive policy analysis. We also do that from the national, also to the regional perspective. And from there, we also have to conduct a workshop or stakeholder engagement where we try to put everyone in the same room, policymakers, technical experts, market operators, and also the community layer. I also have to try to emphasize here that we are not in particular trying to point into a very specific technology. We have to make sure that we are as inclusive as we can, because there's a policy problem that we're trying to solve, and we can't just choose one. We really have to make sure that the technology that is able to solve that problem is actually what we have to map according to that. And so so for this hub, just to simplify all the outcomes that we wanted to derive from this program, we don't just produce a report. For each obligation, for example, we answer which decision, very specific decision, needs evidence, in what form, to whom, and by when. And the output that also I'd like to highlight here is actually the enabling conditions, because as in the space side, we can always talk about interoperability and all those technical aspects of a bottleneck when it comes to adoption. But when it comes to the policy development, we have to make sure that, or answer the questions: what kind of governance change should we do? What kind of procurement structure? What kind of institutional arrangement need to exist for this to become a routine? And the goal of this is that this would be a framework that we can actually apply in all of the regions, not just in Europe, but also outside. And that's actually also exactly what we're trying to do. The first pilot that we have here in Europe is actually in Austria. But also we're trying to expand a little bit outside of Europe so that we can get a little bit of regional context in APAC. And we are working with APR staff, ASEAN, and also with different local space agencies. So every piece of this work in this room, as you have listened a while ago in all of the presentations, we have the heat resilience, we have the climate risk, we have a method monitoring. It represents Earth observation is actually doing what exactly as it should. But what this program, the hub, actually wants to address is who should we giving the solutions to? If how does the evidence reach the person who's trying to create the risk disaster preparedness plan in the right format, in the right channel, and at the right moment? So you want it to be a very, very specific in this. And yeah, if this is something that you think would be very useful as well in your own work, we'd love to talk. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. We can take 1 or 2 questions if there are in the audience. No question. Okay. Oh, yeah. And please use the mic and just introduce yourself. Thank you.
I haven't worked too much with policymakers, but what I find with policymakers is that they try to balance many different considerations, many of which are non-technical. right?
Yes.
How do you get the technical experts, which is part of most people in this room, I suppose, to understand the policymaker's perspective and the other way around? Because otherwise you're just talking about the same thing with completely different voices and they don't even hear each other.
So there are two angles here. First, the reason why we are starting with a policy problem is that because it's their priority. So we are starting with what their priority is. And from there, we try to put an angle of how can we actually solve your problem, your priority problem. And that's where we put space in. Most of the policymakers, as you know, they're not really aware of what space technology can do. So I guess one of the very first steps that we have is really awareness. And from that awareness, we introduce them how it works and how it can solve their problem, which is their actual priority problem. And then from there, we can create some pathways, integration pathways, how we can really integrate these solutions, these data sets into their own operations. And the reason why I actually emphasized here a while ago as well is that when we start with a very specific policy problem, we have to conduct a policy analysis first with them. So we really have to involve them from the very start. And we have to be very, very specific, which means that we have to be specific with what kind of, which specific law or policy that they are trying to solve, which specific timeline, which is very important, which specific institution who owns the problem. So there should really be a problem owner of that problem. Sorry. There's so many.
Following the space regulation, the directive, I mean, the Copernicus law, let's say, we are starting to see several European regulations adopting the language, the terminology. So this is a legal obligation. I'm thinking, for example, nature restoration law that explicitly says cities, whoever is responsible, use CLMS. What is the, from your understanding, inventoring, what is the national pace? Are member states of, in Europe at least, I don't know about the world, but are member states gradually adopting this kind of language in their national legislation, not only European legislation, national legislation?
That's a very good question, and actually, we have a report that actually really really mentions all of that per country. I would also encourage you to read it. But the one of the, as I mentioned a while ago, I had this like a pie chart with different policy priorities and sectors. Most of the countries, they are actually they're really doing or integrating Earth observation in their agriculture. But when it comes to their policy priority, when it comes to peace and security, when it comes to energy, those two are actually the lowest when all of the countries in Europe in general. So yeah, I can also send you you can see the data of all of those if you're curious, and yeah, I can send you later. There's another question at the back. Sorry, I cannot hear you. If you can go in the front.
I can go in front. It's okay. Okay. Oh, perfect. My question is like about what were you talking? Like there is like the platform link or like this platform that it says like is like a web app platform that we could see how does it look all the information that you were talking, or where could we see like more information about this?
You mean the data that I was
Yes.
talking a while ago? There is actually a publication, a report. It's in SP website. If you see, the title of the report is "Where Sensing Makes Sense." It's actually a report that we developed with European Space Agency, and we just also launched it last month. So this is very timely. The title is "Where Sensing Makes Sense."
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there is no other question, I think we are now at the end of this session. So I think we can give a round of applause for all the speakers, and please come to them and ask your other question during the break. Thank you for attending.